Hello everybody and welcome to Monza and an unusual layout to end the season. It's the Radical Esports Cup finale here for season 1 of 2026, and we're taking to the old banking as well as the normal racetrack here at Monza in a very, very interestingly poised final race of the season. It's myself, Illyrium, Ron Mounds in commentary for you this afternoon with Romero Augustin sitting else behind the cameras of this RaceSpotTV broadcast. What an unusual circuit it is, Ron, to end out our long calendar for the last 12 weeks.
Yeah, and it's been a very intriguing calendar that these drivers have tried to tackle. You look at Sebring, Alton Park, Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Really, all of the races have been in a relative sense of normal. You know, Circuit of the Americas and the Charlotte Roval, definitely a little bit out there. Some of the first times that they've ever popped up here in the calendar. Same could be said about Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. But Monza on the combined layout, this was used by F1 only twice, and there's a very good reason for that. If you make a mistake here, you're gonna die. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of race that we've got in store here today. I'm looking forward to it. I'm happy to be here in the broadcast booth instead of behind the wheel, because I don't want my race cars to get turned into Swiss cheese upon impact.
I mean, this is going to be a lot about survival, that is for sure. Christoph Lipp is leading the official standings at the moment, only just in front of James Barry by 4 points. So a big week coming into the official iRacing standings. Havok Gullikson just over 100 points back now. We had Kjetil Larsen, last week's broadcasted race winner, just over 250 points back now. Sebastian Lipp is in 5th. Peter Eveny only just in front of Heinz Braun there for 6th place, with George Gonzaga, Rafa Blanco and Andre Castro rounding out the top 10. And you'll be pleased that most of the guys in that order there we've also been seeing here on RaceSpotTV on Friday nights. In our own standings, it is close between Christoph Lipp and James Barry at the moment. You'll be glad to know they're both here tonight and they're fighting it out for a title. Either of them win the race, they win the title as well. Havok Gullikson is 3rd in front of Sebastian Lipp, and those two are pretty close as well. Kjetil Larsen rounds out the top 5. Bit of a gap then back to Heinz Braun and the rest. Peter Eveny 7th in front of Andre Castro. Ryan Odo, who is one of the only ones who's in our standings but not in our racing standings, and George Gonzaga, who rounds out the top 10 there with 36 points so far. We're not far after midday. It is not too warm out there, using tomorrow's date, the 7th of March, and 26 degrees Celsius down on the racetrack, only 78 Fahrenheit. That's not too warm indeed for these cars. For the most part, they're just setting themselves up for a lap time here, Ron. The parabolica is normally important at Monza because it decides your run all the way to turn 1 in the first chicane, but actually decides to run all the way around the banking here at this layout, as well as in towards the first chicane eventually. So it matters an awful lot how you go around that final corner of the previous lap to set up a new one.
Yeah, so the Parabolica is still going to make a world of difference here for these drivers, but it's going to look like just a teeny tiny speck in comparison to the high banks here. Going to be super vital. The straight line speed important. And one interesting point that was raised to us by series veteran, multi-time champion here in the Radical officials as well, James Barry, let us know that these cars actually don't have enough fuel to make it through the entirety of this race flat out. So we also have the possibility of maybe seeing some drivers run out of gas here too.
Yeah, interesting to hear that at the beginning of the day. It'll be very interesting to see whether they decide to just do that. Do they go on and do the short pit stop intentionally, or do they actually try to save the fuel in the pack? Because I get the feeling as well here that this will be quite a lot about pack racing. First of all, the actual start of this race is on this very narrow, where the front straight is cut in half effectively. So it's going to be very narrow off the start here. First of all, that's going to be a lot about survival, as I've said already. But next up, it's the group, isn't it? It's how you monitor the group, and it's going to feel like a super speedway oval race first before we actually get into the proper racing. Coming into the Grand Prix circuit, and then obviously that changes again as we go onto the banking again. It's an absolute circuit of two halves.
Oh, it definitely is, and that's going to just create such a whirlwind of emotions and feelings for these competitors. They're not really sure how exactly they should tackle this racetrack. It's going to give these drivers whiplash, I think it is most certainly fair to say. You've got the twisty confines of the road course, which usually would feel like one of the more open tracks that we visit here in these SR10s, certainly throughout this season, but it feels like you're racing around Monaco after coming off of the high banks. So just it is going to be a night of whiplash for these competitors. competitors. But I will say, with this rather interesting combination, we've seen some fantastic participation throughout this week. 2 packed splits and some top drivers running here in this season finale event for Season 1 of 2026 as well. James Barry and Havard Gullickson, past champions, locking at your front row. We've got Andre Castro directly behind him. Mehmet Barrett Akis, who's a bit of a newer name here in these radicals, but still looking to find his footing. Rafa Blanco, past champion. George Gonzaga, series veteran. And then you look a little bit farther down, Felix Samoas, who's been running in these SR10s a little bit more sporadically as of recent, but he was in the first race that I covered that was 3 years ago on Tuesday. So he's been around these cars before. And another interesting name that caught my attention when I loaded into the session, a certain man who streams iRacing, Matt Malone, is here. He once popped into an official race many moons ago at Alton Park, so this is quite the different track for him to try and tackle here today, but he's got some really tough competition too.
I'm sure a lot of people will be popping in for a bit of fun this week, and whatever time slot it is. Of course, they run every couple of hours, not just when we're broadcasting them here on at 2100 GMT on a Friday afternoon. I'm not indeed going to get to the end of this lap by the looks of things, and get to the end here before qualifying ends, as the gaps are writ large for everybody to see. You can see the gaps are pretty wide compared to what we normally see at a normal sized racetrack, but of course this is not a normal sized racetrack, so we'll have to recalibrate ourselves just a little bit, as will these drivers indeed, ready for this race. It's Sebastian Lipp and Christoph Lipp who share the front row, with James Barry, his championship rival, there in third position as well. Havard Gullickson rounds off the second row with them, with Andre Castro and Mehmet Barrett Akers putting in a good performance there to get up to sixth. Rafa Blanco and George Gonzaga on row 4 in front of Aaron Sipos and Alexander Vermes. They'll be pleased to be in the top 10 here. Felix Simos ahead of Juan Perez. We can see there on row 6. 13th, Ole Gullickson in front of Anne Medema. Then it is Chris Wetz and Dennis Kirakopoulos. David Cole and Richard Dempsey are both on row 9. Top 20 covered by Daniel Sassu and Heinz Braun, who be disappointed not to get a lap in, and Matt Malone will start from the back of the field indeed. As I say, Ron, though, this is going to be so much about survival early on here, especially given how narrow the front straight is, because it is cut in half by this layout.
Yeah, and because we're on this half of that wall, we're going to be tackling the banking to start off with. So this is going to start off as a super speedway race. So I'm not sure how I could prepare to kind of cover this. I'm not sure what could be done to prepare for this for these drivers or for us here in the broadcast booth. It's going to be a scramble at the start of this race. I am more than confident of that, but fantastic point that you bring up. Very narrow confines to get this green flag, and considering these cars are a bit tricky to nail off the line, this is going to be either fascinating, most certainly fascinating, but it could also be a bloodbath. Only time will tell.
Well, let's put it this way, I'll be very surprised if everybody makes it off the banking for the first time into the rest of the lap, to be honest. We'll see how they go, of course.
I'm not a betting man, but I will eat my shoe if we don't see a driver ballpark it.
I think we will be seeing some unfortunate accidents on this opening lap, to be honest, but let's see. As all of the drivers get themselves ready to go. It'll be 10 laps tonight here from Monza in the final race in the Radical Esports Cup this season, and we are underway. There you can see the narrow front straight, and they're already actually getting into line, so clearly they know what's on the way here, although James Barry now goes to the low side on Christoph and Sebastian Lipp, who decide to stay connected out front there on the high side. Here comes Castro on the outside line as well. That was quite risky from him to squeeze himself up near to the wall like that, and it was Gullickson who went backwards as a result. But look at the way that the guys behind all catch up to the leaders here because of the slipstream. So far, everybody has actually gotten away cleanly, but the two leaders, Sebastian and Christoph Lipp, working together has helped everybody out, I think, here as they set the pace at the front of the field.
Yeah, and heading off to the second of the high banks. This, in my book, is always a more choppy and sketchy one, so keep an eye on these racers as they still go side by side, trying to scramble their way before they head up onto the start-finish straightaway to finally get the road course started. Look at that. That is absolute madness. Pack racing right now, your top 6 covered by absolutely nothing. Lipp gonna lead them off into the braking zone, into the first chicane.
Oh, and Christoph Lipp there defending from James Barry, so he didn't want Barry down the inside. He's let Andre Castro, though, around the outside. Oh, and that Barry's been sent into a spin there. The first chicane just as fearsome. even after taking on the banking first time round. And Barry sent into a half spin there by Ava Gullikson, who has dropped himself quite a far down as well now. But look at the gaps that have started to emerge as a result. The top three have a bit of a margin over the rest. Mehmet Berat-Akis is now in fourth, but he isn't quite with those three leaders anymore.
Yeah, as soon as we got off into the road course, it's going to break this pack up just a teeny tiny bit, but they've still got the high banks to kind of act as glue, but that glue isn't going to be around for too long, so you just got to ace the run through these tight twisties to be able to have a chance at winning this race. It's the brotherly duo, first and second. Your reigning two-time series champion and Andre Castro not going to make it a three-peat here in season 1 of 2026, but he's looking to end this season that has been a bit disappointing on a high note and hit the ground running come time for the start of season 2 in 2 weeks' time. So Andre Castro certainly looking for a good result, and once these drivers start to battle right up in front, you got to bring in the likes of Mehmet Berat-Akis, Alexander Veremic, and George Gonzaga. An interesting point to raise about Berat-Akis and Veremic is I believe the first time that I personally covered them here in these radicals was here at Monza about a half a year ago when we were covering the World Finals qualifier in 2025.
Indeed, such a different prospect though. Seeing this banking rather. Here is the second chicane. Oh dear, big stack up behind. We saw the incidents and accidents through the first chicane, but not the second. And yeah, there was a real stack up back there, involving. It would have been quite far back because Heinz Braun indeed was involved back there. Look at the three leaders getting away here. Akers trying to come with them, but can't do it because Sebastian and Christoph Lipp are working together, and the guys behind are not working together. Gonzaga, oh no, look at this.
Oh.
3 wide down the back straight, and this is not conducive to catching the leaders at all. Maybe they've given up on it already, but they are 3 wide now through the third and fourth turns of this oval section of the racetrack. And on the inside, that's Barry pushing Gonzaga to try and confirm, and they have got to the front of the group now, but they're finally reeling in the leaders a little bit. But yeah, this is proper fighting back here in the second group.
And as much as I was a little bit nervous of 3 wide action as they headed their way off through the high banks into the first chicane, I'm still really wary of side-by-side racing. Felix Samoa's looking to battle, scrape, and claw past the number 3 car, James Barry. Drivers who, interestingly enough, have gone to cover both of these SR10s, but also in Formula Ford and Spec Racer Ford machinery. They're quick and they're very talented racers that we've got throughout this pack, but still going side-by-side as they head their way off in through the second chicane. Now, as much as the high banks are a fantastic opportunity to go side by side, I still feel like that nervousness of hitting the bumps, losing control, and having a pretty sickening impact with that outside wall does deter the racers ever so slightly of going for some gutsy moves. It's an interesting prospect. First half of the lap when you're on the high banks, getting a move done is just a matter of, bending the floor pen in your race car, gunning it, and trying to muscle your way past. Then you head off through the road course, and it's an entirely different dilemma.
Yeah, indeed. This is the second group, which really does have to get its act together now. It wants to catch the leaders, but it's hard to know whether they definitely do want to at this stage. I mean, James Barry certainly will, but they might well be distracted into fighting with one another. And you get the feeling that while Sebastian and Christoph Lipp are out front together, it's going to be very difficult to catch the two leaders because they've already shown, and I guess it makes sense for them absolutely to do so. They've already shown that they are going to absolutely work together here, and that will make this second group's life very, very difficult.
Yeah, at the moment, these racers farther up the road are feeling as relaxed as you could around this racetrack. I think the word relaxed should definitely be put on screen with massive air quotes next to it. These racers are definitely about as nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, but they don't have any pressure behind, at least yet. Sebastian and Christoph Lipp, though, playing the game that they need to. Bump drafting each other, heading down the straightaways works out well. Meanwhile, farther behind, look at that fantastic view of rush hour traffic. Aaron Sipos in the number 19 car having 2x2 racing all around him. He's currently running at 11th, and he still has a fantastic view of the drivers battling and scraping and clawing for spots inside the top 5. Only here on the Monza combined configuration could you have a situation like that.
Yeah, indeed. This is the end of the banking now, so back onto the normal road course they go. It's just about looking for somewhere to go, but these guys are at the back of a very long group, going up all the way to 4th position, and Aaron Sipos decides that just backing away is probably the better idea, and he's probably right about that. Veremish heading down the inside of Blanco, but everybody tentative on the brakes. And Andre Castro at the top of the screen is going to be such an interesting one as far as the race win is concerned here, because he is the only one who's not with those teammates, if you like. He's not a lip brother, of course. He's not on their team, indeed, as well. So how does he play this, I wonder? And he's going to be the key, I think, almost for the second group, to say, well, if Castro gets involved early, gets between the two maybe early on, then this could be a race. But he knows that's unlikely at the moment. Castro benefits from those two being in front of him right now as well.
Yeah, so still in the early stages of this race, and I'm curious what sort of strategy these racers are trying to tackle this race with. We've seen some racers just absolutely floor it, battling farther behind. Everybody's still going side by side. But I think these racers up the top three kind of remaining in tow, they're playing the smart game here. I'd say of the three, though, Andre Castro is getting the best. He's getting the best draft, he's getting the best slipstream, probably getting the best fuel mileage out of everybody. And we see him down the straightaways, especially on the high banks. He's not closing up, although he certainly could probably be able to do that even with the two bump drafting right up in front of him. He'd still probably be able to make that work, but Castro is just biding his time, slipping back in tow and getting the good fuel mileage. I still think that the possibility of having somebody run out of gas here in this race is far from zero. I haven't gotten to see that ever in my entire time covering these radicals, so that would be a first if we can have that happen here, but would be such a pity for whoever gets struck by that falling anvils. We see Alexander Veremish making a call to come down pit lane. Let's go drop him outside the top 10.
And there was trouble for Veremish in the group that he was in, the back end of the second group there as it was. And he might well decide that, well, I've had my incident, so might as well come in now for a bit of fuel as well, because, as you say, this is a very rare occurrence in the radicals, but they seemingly are going to require fuel for this round of the championship, or require some fuel saving. Depends on which. Usually it looks, unless none of the guys at the front of fuel saving, it looks like fuel saving would be a better strategy, because you would lose quite a lot of time at these sorts of speeds pitting. So maybe we'll see some people trying to go the distance, but let's wait and see here as the drivers come in towards turn 1 again. I'm going to keep calling it turn 1, this first chicane. No, it isn't really, is it? The Grand Prix circuit. The three leaders continuing to extend their group over the second. I say it will be about survival here, and haven't been quite as many falling by the wayside through crashes as maybe some would have expected. However, the earlier slight incidents in the first chicane on lap number 1 have created a gap to these three.
Yeah, so because of that early bout of shenanigans for these drivers, they're feeling easy in terms of being able to just battle for the podium spots and not have to worry about anybody else back in tow. It also helps that pack behind really isn't doing themselves too many favors to reel these drivers in. So we'll have to see. I mean, we still have more than half this race left to go, but certainly looking good for these top three as they head their way downtown in through the braking zone of the Ascari chicane right now. One thing to consider here, Ewan, and this could be a shot in the dark considering this is a massive track, you know, over 6 miles, over 2.5-minute long lap times that we saw in qualifying earlier. But the prospect of pit stops and some chicanery that happened earlier, do you think we would maybe see some lap traffic get involved here too?
I think Christoph and Sebastian lip swap there. I think the circuit's too big, to be honest. It is 2 minutes 40 roughly for a lap. These leaders are doing just under that, but when you've got a lap time of 160 seconds, I think it's very difficult to see lap traffic, even with the incidents and so on. We'll see if we do get much, but I think the circuit will be too big, to be honest, as the guys head their way back onto the banking all over again. There was definitely trouble behind, because Howard Gullickson just got a meatball flag here. This is why the gaps to the second group ballooning again. Oh dear! And it's contact on the straight here between James Barry and Ackes, and as Howard Gullickson tries to avoid it, he's tipped into a spin. And the second group is falling apart as well. So the three for the lead now are absolutely confirmed as the guys who are going to fight for the win here, really. but some of the big names, like Havik Gullikson, taken out of this completely now.
And of all the straightaways to run into trouble through, it's that. Of all the portions of this track where drama could have taken place, you'd expect it to be on the banking. I remember one time I covered a Spec Racer 40 race here, and there was a 26-car pileup heading off through turn number 2 on the oval. So you'd expect it to be there, but no, it was heading off in a parabolic as I nearly just saw Andre Castro give a sudden hip check to Sebastian Lipp heading off in through the braking zone of the first chicane. It's caused him to lose a little bit of time, but he's still within striking distance of those drivers. The comfortable margin, the magic number here in this race is probably about 1 to 1.25 seconds. Once you dip out of that range, you're going to lose a draft, and you're just going to drop down like an anvil that's been pushed out of a blimp.
As Gonzaga looking to the inside of Aaron Sipos there, the 7th, but he can't do it. The group is starting to get back together again there from 4th on backwards, but it's not really going to be threatening the leaders anymore. As we go on board with Heinz Braun at the bottom of your screen, 12th now. Just in behind Matt Malone and Richard Dempsey. They are the ones, 3 of the guys actually, who've all started relatively far down towards the back end of the field here. They're having to work their way through now as a result, as Christophe and Sebastian Lipp come towards the final turn again. They're about to hit the halfway stage of this race already. Have they swapped, because it's about halfway, they swapped recently, have they swapped so that the other can now do the fuel saving required to get to the end? It was suggested to us that, or it was how I interpreted it anyway, that it wouldn't actually take very much fuel saving for this to actually make it on fuel, but we'll see about that.
See, I have another theory as to what that swapperoo could have been for. The fuel saving, that's a very good theory. I think that could be true, but I'll play point counterpoint here and say maybe worrying a little bit about overheating here in these cars. Some moderate conditions for these drivers are not having to worry too much about the temperatures being too hot, 67 Fahrenheit for the ambient, so that works out quite well. But, most of this lap is spent full throttle, flat out, balls-to-the-wall racing, so the engines will be feeling it after a while. So I wonder if they just decided to swap Rue because Christophe Lipp's engine was starting to get a bit toasty out there. Sometimes in cool weather it could be nice to put on nice blankets and stuff like that. An engine does not like that. That is a quick way to turn a piston into a puddle of aluminum.
That will be a factor in this as well. They do end up fuel saving, or indeed, well, Castro's definitely fuel saving. We'll see whether they're stopping or fuel saving here, or maybe both, I suppose. But here comes James Barry on Felix Samos in the meantime for 4th position, and he looks down the inside, but can't get himself through. George Gonzaga waits in 6th, and he stays behind for Blanco next, and then Aaron Sipos, who is down to 8th position now. So this is the second group of chasers. These are not going to be people we're worrying about for the race victory. That will be settled out front here, and therefore James Barry will lose points in the iRacing standings and also lose our RaceSpotTV standings as well, because James Barry is only 4 points behind Christophe Lipp. If either of them win the race, then they've won the title, but Barry is actually 4 points behind coming in today in our Friday night races, and unfortunately it's actually lap 1 and the incident down towards the first chicane which has ended up costing him here. So a rather innocuous incident at the time allowed the front 3 to get away, and that's very much set up this race situation for the next 5 laps.
Yeah, it has settled who's going to be battling for the race win, but it hasn't settled who is going to be your race winner. As we take a look at a replay to see a moment for Rafa Blanco, past champion here in this series, and a huge rear lockup heading off into the second chicane. That's going to cause, I believe that's Aaron Sipos who had to take evasive action there as they headed their way all through the turn. That's another point that we do have to raise, kind of talking about the opening braking zones once you head off into the road course. The brakes are going to be ice cold after spending about what feels like 50,000 years at full throttle pace. So heading off into turn number 1, as you called it earlier, Ewan, that is going to be quite the reality check for these drivers, quite the reality check for these cars, and even into the second braking zone of the lap. That can be very tricky. Looking looking at the battle for fourth right now. Felix Samoas, James Barry, and George Gonzaga all running nose to tail. Barry having the stones to push Felix Samoas here, and looking to try and get that. Meanwhile, and Medma currently battling for 11th with Matt Malone. Matt did briefly jump his way up into the top 10, and he's still there in the fight because Richard Dempsey is right around them as well. I thought Dempsey had just phased out of reality, but no, he is still there at the moment. So it's a three-car battle for the final spot inside the top 10. It may be a little bit broken up with some of our packs, but these fights are still looking to get intense to the end.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Malone just waits behind for now. It's not quite like super speedway racing in the sense of this is a very bumpy oval, so it's not immediate that you want to be heading down to the inside and trying to make a move everywhere like you might do at Daytona or Talladega, for example. It's a little bit different to that, but now on the front straight you might decide to go for it, maybe not though. And maybe the fuel saving is beginning to take hold down here as well. A lot of waiting at this stage in the race really before the final 3 laps of this race, which is what we're about to hit, the final 3 laps of this season as well. Looking at the behaviour of the groups, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it's everybody trying to fuel save right now enough to make sure they can make it all the way home. Something we very rarely, if ever, talking about in this series.
Yeah, no, even in the Radical Sim Racing Championships, the European and Americas Cups, that will be restarting soon here on RaceSpotTV in the coming weeks. Stay tuned for that. However, in those races, we don't usually see fuel saving play a factor in those. It's just a matter of these racers being forced into the situation. Now, there was some discussion about whether this was a good thing or a bad thing. I personally think, although I wouldn't want to see it every single week, it does throw a nice little curveball these drivers' way. I kind of made a passing joke about it earlier on in the broadcast, but I still think there's a lot of truth said and just. First time in my entire time covering these radical officials that fuel saving has played a factor in any racing, even at the Nordschleife, you don't have to worry about fuel saving at all. So I think this is rather fascinating to see an added dynamic put into this, but I'm not sure if these drivers are necessarily fans of it, because these SR10 races with the draft monsters that these machines are, and still a little bit tricky to keep them on the road while running at 10/10ths. It's another chainsaw that these drivers have to juggle with before they end up losing a finger.
For interesting races if they had to do this every week, but I'm sure the drivers would all enjoy it so much, to be honest. Gonzaga is pushed by Barry through to the front of this group again. Aggressive pushing, but even if there was only one leader out front on their own right now, I think 12 seconds would probably be enough to stay in front. So this is a rather forlorn hope to try and catch those leaders now. This is all about the battle for fourth place, really, as it is. And you can't get any higher than that, I would have thought. Sebastian Lipp and Christoph Lipp again get onto the Grand Prix circuit with Castro just hanging back here. He's got plenty of time to think about how he's going to get in the middle of those two, and now he's going to do it. So Sebastian Lipp backed away there towards turn 1, the first chicane, and Andre Castro went down the inside, so now he's between them. Now this race gets interesting. He's, as I was about to say, he's had a long time to think about how he's going to do this. Now his plan is well and truly into action.
Yeah, so Andre Castro playing this game right as he got go for a move heading off into the turn. No, he does not. One thing that I think keeps Andre Castro in the discussion on these Radical SR10 races, especially the ones where the draft plays a massive factor in it, he knows how to play the draft very, very well. A driver with a lot of experience in real life in Formula Ford machinery, a driver that I've gotten to cover in Formula Ford machinery here in the sim, and those cars are a bit of a draft monster. These SR10s certainly a bit stronger in the draft. He knows how to play the games well. If you can master the draft and learn that game of chess quicker than anybody else, you can be golden. So I think Andre Castro has been able to use that to his advantage here in this season finale, able to time out the runs, time out when he's choosing to peak here in this race, and even giving a little bit of old boot scoot and boogie to Christoph Lipp as they head their way out of Ascari. This is gutsy stuff, and look at that. Sebastian Lipp right as those two are chasing each other's tails. He's gonna say, hey, thank you very much, boys. I appreciate that check. I mean, it just blows their doors off.
Well, the games going on here are getting out of hand, and this is what could invite the next group in. So here we go. Now they're both slowing on the inside. Christoph Lipp goes right round the outside now. So I guess they do want to be 1 and 2 here, to the Lipp brothers. But Castro's not going to let that happen so easily. He's going to push Sebastian Lipp now towards Christoph Lipp, in towards the oval turns 1 and 2, and now he's going to back away. Now, is this him sizing up a run in time for the back straight, or is he going to wait here? Again, this is very interesting now. The cat and mouse games have really begun.
You know, you could call it a cat and mouse game. I personally think it's pretty much just a game of chicken being conducted at about 175 miles an hour. You can see Castro and Lipp now going side by side. Castro now trying to get a move done on Christoph Lipp, for the race lead. He's going to take the run on the inside and be able to pounce. They're coming into the final stages of this race, though. About a lap and a half left to go. Now, considering this layout, that still is about 9 miles, so they still have a lot of time left to settle this fight, but it's certainly getting a bit intense out there on the racetrack because they're still side by side. Heading off into the braking here soon. We saw Andre be really brave in the brakes at the start of this race, and he gets the move done to jump into the top spot.
Because that banking section is so long, it means that Castro can back away and regain a run on them to try and get past and back into the lead. And well, what a fantastic race this is turning into for these front three. It's the final race win of the season we're fighting over now, and looks like we're going to get another different race winner. We've had quite a few different ones in the last few weeks. In fact, we haven't seen the repeat winner for, what, weeks now. And, you know, 6 or 7 weeks in a row I think we're on now, with different winners happening each and every time. And Andre Castro, not one of them, I don't believe. No, he hasn't won this season yet in our broadcasted races. Sebastian Lipp and, Christoph Lipp has. Sebastian Lipp hasn't either. And the three of them are the ones with the chance right now. The gap grows to about a second. Castro faster through the Grand Prix circuit. He's going to see the white flag alone. But Christoph Lipp and Sebastian Lipp are going to get together, and I sense are going to try and time this so that they can roar past him coming onto the Grand Prix circuit for this final lap of the race.
Yeah, once those two start to pair up, Andre Castro, you know, the Simpsons meme, the I'm in danger meme, that's basically what Andre Castro is going to be feeling come time for the end of this race. So he's already trying to play that game, nearly went down into the pits to try and just disrupt the air a little bit, but the white flag in the air, and that gap is starting to close up. It's now going to dip below a second, and they're not even halfway through this first turn of the banking. If those two can stay stuck together, Andre Castro is going to be in a real tough position. He's going to have to master the road course, because I don't think he's going to be leading heading into it.
Well, I think he's maybe backing off right now so that he can get caught and pass by them a little bit earlier. But I might be wrong. It might just be the difference in speeding. There they come into shot now, the two of them. A little bit of weaving on the back straight. I think they're backing away themselves now, just so that they don't get caught up too close coming through the banking. It's not as simple as going away under a super speedway, so you've got to be very careful where you get your run. Here we go, though. Out of the banking turn 4, and Christoph Lipp is going to be pushed to glory here by Sebastian Lipp, although Andre Castro going to hold his own on the inside line now, coming into the first chicane. Sebastian Lipp completely backs away, but this could be the race. Down on the brakes, Andre Castro goes deep. Oh, and he locks up as well, but he's in front of his rivals here. Contact! Christoph and Sebastian Lipp make contact. They've messed this up for themselves. And Andre Castro surely now is going to go on to win this race.
Oh, I've seen celebrities with plastic surgery jobs that was botched less than that. That was disaster for those two as they headed their way out of the chicane. They had a fantastic shot to get the win, but they spoiled it. Andre Castro now with the 2.5 second margin as he heads his way off through the Lesmos. This is looking golden for him. I will say they kind of shot themselves in the foot in more ways than one, because not only did they make the contact, but Sebastian Lipp tried to lift so Christoph could remain ahead of him. Good sportsmanship there, but in the midst of that, that lift, it just let Andre Castro drive away even more. Let's take a look at here. See, I like this call from Sebastian to lay back and wait for all the chaos and craziness to break out. But yeah, that was honestly, I would put that on Christoph. He's probably let a little bit of a gap there, but again, keeping the momentum rolling. It's split-second decisions that result in that. And unfortunately for those two, it's still getting them finishing on the podium, but not quite the win. And for the first time in these broadcasted races, the only time in these broadcasted races here in this season, Andre Castro gonna taste the champagne.
Yeah, Andre Castro had a very successful final season of 2025. He has taken a long time to get his win this time, though, but better late than never. He is going to take victory here from Monza in the Radical Esports Cup, and it's by 4 seconds in the end. Who would have thought that that would be the winning margin here? Sebastian Lipp finishes in front of Christoph Lipp, the two brothers crossing the line together. Christoph will seal the RaceSpotTV standings from our broadcasted Friday night races in front of James Barry, only in the end by about 7 points between the two of them. And in the iRacing standings, there will still be very little to choose between them, and that will go on throughout the rest of the week, of course, as they decide a champion between themselves. That could be pretty close as well, but yeah, Christoph will be very disappointed with the way that last lap handed out, clashing with his teammate to prevent him from getting even a chance at this race win. That was not expected, definitely not expected out of those two.
Yeah, and that's kind of disastrous for Christoph Lipp in more ways than one. Not only did he lose a shot at victory, he also lost the opportunity to have a very good cushion as we head our way through the rest of this iRacing season. Now, the action from these 2100 GMT broadcasted races may be ending right about now, but the iRacing season is still going to stretch on to Monday, so it's going to be a very nervous next couple of days. I don't think we can crown a champion here. Even though this is usually where most of the big points come from, I don't think it can be awarded just yet. There's still maybe an opportunity for James Barry to grab his 5th crown.
That's Andre Castro who wins this race tonight in front of Sebastian and Christoph Lipp by about 4.5 seconds. James Barry finishing in 4th, ahead of George Gonzaga there in that next group. Felix Samoz in 6th place. Matt Malone got himself up to 7th there, gaining 14 places, the most of anybody throughout the day. Then Richard Dempsey, Aaron Sipos and Dennis Kyriakopoulos rounding out the top 10. And Madamet rounds out 11th, ahead of Heinz Braun and Rafa Blanco. Juan Perez next in front of Mehmet Barrett-Akers, with Alexander Vermish, Chris Wetz, David Cole, Oleg Gullikson on the lead lap. Daniel Sasu started from the pit lane and finished 3 down. Having Gullikson retired 5 laps from the finish. Let's have a chat, shall we, to Andre Castro, who's won tonight from Monza. Andre, welcome in. Congratulations on winning this race and getting ahead of both of the Lipp brothers there. How did you sort of plan about doing that, and what were those first few laps like when you were setting that out as you rode away from the rest of the field? What did you sort of think about your chances of getting past them both in one go?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't super hopeful about my chances. I mean, you know, because the drafting is so important here, and it was kind of a 2v1 situation. I mean, I saved a lot of fuel in the first few laps, and I knew they were kind of trading off in the lead, so I thought I might have a bit more fuel to burn at the end. But then I went for it with like 3 laps to go. I wanted to just try to split them up, you know, because I feel like that was my best chance. And then whichever one was in front of me just started like lifting on the straight, kind of playing games. I mean, we're all playing games, but yeah, trying to let the other Lipp brother pass. And so I almost turned him a couple times in the straight because he was just checking me up. But then I managed to get in the lead with a couple laps to go, and I figured maybe if I can pull a gap through the infield, then they might have a tough time catching me. But of course they did catch me on the oval again, and then I guess they ran each other out of road coming out of the chicane. So I was surprised they didn't actually blow by me going into, you know, road course turn 1. I thought they were going to make their move and I was going to be 3rd, but managed to go side by side with Christoph in the braking zone, and then, or one of them, I don't know which one, and then they pushed each other off, kind of ran out of room. So yeah, it'd been a pretty rough season. Obviously I didn't do all the races, but it was going to be winless in the SOF races, so I'm glad I squeezed one out at the end.
Yeah, indeed. And how have you found that, especially off the back of the end of the last year that you had, which was so strong? How have you found that change this time round, which, as you say, has not been as successful this year, although you haven't been at every race? How have you found that change to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, this race was such an anomaly. I don't know how much it, you know, kind of represents the other kind of tracks, but I was kind of, I was having some hardware issues, and ended up getting my PC fixed kind of, and got a bit of an upgrade. I kind of had a CPU fan issue, so that kind of helped me have some more frames. I feel like the last few races I was kind of struggling on frames, and yeah, I don't know. I got a new screen as well, so just kind of feeling. I did move my whole sim setup earlier this month, so it was just a challenge and putting it all back together and getting a couple new pieces. So just kind of getting used to that, and yeah, having a little more time to practice. I did the race before this, and then yeah, it was just sticking with the Lip brothers in the draft. I mean, in qualifying I was half second off. I didn't feel like my lap was very good, but still, it's just all about draft here. So just managed to avoid the wreck in the beginning and stay in the draft, and then it was just kind of chess after that, I guess. So yeah, I didn't really rate my chances, but it worked out in the end.
Well, congratulations on getting to the win tonight, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate another season of the broadcast, and hope to see you all soon.
Thanks so much. Andre Castro, the winner tonight from Monza in our final Radical Esports Cup broadcasting race of the season. Christoph Lipp finishes in third place in the end. And Christoph, welcome in. Good to have you with us. How do you feel about finishing third in the end there? Talk us through that final lap and how it unfolded.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mess. First of all, I'm happy that I made it safe to the finish line because it was important for the championship points. But in the end, Sebastian and me, we were in the comms, and I messed it up a little bit with the tactics, and we had some miscommunication. And in the first chicane, then in the last lap, I didn't expect Sebastian to be right side of me, and then he gave me a touch, and I almost spun. So that was, of course, some scary moments. But in the end, the idea was I let Sebastian fight with Andre, and I just follow them. But yeah, obviously we messed it up. But it's not a big problem for me. I'm happy with P3.
Well, indeed, it's still a podium. Talk us through the outlook on the season as a whole. We saw coming into tonight's or today's race in the iRacing standings that you and James Barry were very, very close to one another, but you'll know more about the drop weeks and behind the scenes or whatever, and how that's going to look coming out of this season. But what's the outlook on that as far as who's going to win the iRacing standings this season for season 1 of 2026, and what this final week of the season has been like?
Yeah, it's we are separated before that race. We are separated by 4 points. Both of us have a drop result of 171 points. So it was just about who is going to be in front of the other guy to make it to the championship. Expecting that this is the highest SOF race, and there will not be that much points on the board for the final races to come this week. So yeah, that was the target. I practiced a lot with Sebastian, the bump draft tactics and what we're going to do. So really big thanks to Sebastian for the support here in that race and during the whole season, and yeah, also to James for a tough season, very competitive, always fair, and very close, and yeah, was really cool.
Well, congratulations on getting to third place in our race tonight, and thanks for chatting to us throughout the season, of course, as well.
Yep, thanks, Ewan. Bye.
Thanks so much. That is Christoph Lipp, who rounds off the podium, and James Barrett has also put himself in the waiting room for fourth place here tonight. James, welcome in. Good to have you with us as well. Talk us through this race, first of all. A race that it feels like for yourself got undone very, very early on here with a bit of contact through the first chicane, but as we were saying previewing this broadcast, it was bound to happen to somebody, and unfortunately that's the way that the group split. Just tell us about the opening for this race from your point of view.
Yeah, it is what it is. It was me versus Christoph, kind of winner takes it all here for the championship, and I was in the place that I wanted to be going into turn 1. Had Andre around my outside, then into, well, turn 1, I guess it's turn 3 technically, but turn 1, and then had Havard in my inside, and I just kind of, I think I started turning in. I didn't realise that he was still on my inside, so he spun me around. He apologised during the race, but I think I could have done myself more favours there than I did. And ultimately, that was just end of the race, really, because Christoph obviously made his merry way into the kind of leading pack, and I had damage from that, so we were struggling, working so hard with George. So massive shout out to George Gonzaga for helping me out through that race, trying to make the best of it that we could, but ultimately couldn't do anything about Christoph at the front.
The standings in iRacing were separated by only 4 points coming into this race between yourself and Christoph Lipp. So what has that battle been like over the course of the season? This is the closest one I can remember for a few seasons now between the two of you. How has that been throughout the season?
No, I was just saying to him just now, it's just been a pleasure to be pushed by him so much, and I've been working super hard. I said after Long Beach, where I crashed out, I said to him, I have to forget about the championship and just focus on enjoying the next race. And after that, I've had some really good races, kind of Rudskogen, Brands Hatch, Bathurst last week, all really good races. And even today, good results. So yeah, just been working super hard, and it's just a pleasure to have a guy like him to push me as much as possible. Not intentionally, but just by setting the standard that he does. It's just amazing to have that target to aim for, and it's getting the best out of me. So I'm looking forward to continuing it in the rest of this year, and let's see how many more battles we can have.
Yeah, indeed. Well, thanks for chatting to us at the end of this season, and hopefully we'll see you in the next.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks a lot for the broadcast this season. Yeah, cheers, guys. See you later.
Thanks very much. That's James Barry, who finishes 4th place in the final race of this season. That's it for another season run. The first one of 2026 is over with. I'll tell you, actually, the next series calendar for this championship, which I think is pretty much confirmed based on the one I've seen. Mugello, Suzuka, Sonoma, Spa, VIR, Brands Hatch, Hungaroring, Laguna Seca, Silverstone, Montreal, Nordschleife back on the calendar, and the Adelaide Street Circuit on the calendar, I think for the first time ever, to round off the season. So another varied schedule, another schedule to look forward to in season 2 of 2026. But this has been a really close one to start off in 2026, both our races that we've done here on RaceSpotTV, but also in the iRacing standings between Christoph Lipp and James Barry as well.
Oh yeah, it was an absolutely amazing trip that we had here in season 1 of 2026. Great racing, some wild action, and I think tonight here was kind of the antithesis of what has been a fantastic journey in season 1 of 2026. It is also the end of my 13th season covering Radical official action here on iRace. Started off 3 years ago, all the way back on March 3rd of 2023, as an idiot still in high school at that point in time. Got the opportunity to cover my first ever race here in this series. It was at the Nordschleife. I had no idea what I was doing. Someone argued that I still probably don't, but I absolutely love covering this. This will, however, be my final season covering the action here in this series, at least on a full-time basis, at least for now. Mr. Jared Gregory, longtime voice here in these Radicals, and somebody who's got the opportunity to hop in the booth, including last week at Bathurst, will be stepping into my seat here in the broadcast booth. But Ewan, over the past year, man, it's been one hell of a trip to be here in the broadcast booth for you, covering these races every single Friday. And for the Radical community as well, I want to thank you all for welcoming me in through all the very odd comments, even that plastic surgery line a little bit earlier on here. But Ewan, let's get out of here and look ahead to season 2, which is going to be one hell of a trip too.
It certainly is. It's going to be one trip around the world as well. And every week we'll be live here on the iRacing and RaceSpotTV YouTube channel. So make sure you join us for that. I've been Ewan Leary alongside Ron Mounds here in the commentary box with Romero Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras of this RaceSpotTV broadcast tonight. Until we see you in 2 weeks for the new season of the Radical Esports Cup, it's goodbye for now.